Anyway, we have a lot to go through today. Just a reminder, make sure to keep your chat on topic. And if you turn your webcam on, that the dance party is at the end of the virtual classroom or very beginning. So,
Yay.
yeah. All right. Today, we're going to focus on these first two world class outcomes again. If you remember, on Thursdays, we talk a little bit more about language arts, and then on Mondays, um, we're really analyzing more graphs as it relates to math and health and wellness. So, again, let's just kind of focus our attention to these first two world class outcomes or goals. I'm just going to read the kid language that we developed together to make it easier to understand. So, our first world class outcome is to find the most cost effective, creative, and smart solutions to solve a problem. And today, when we go through our projects that we're going to be completing, or I should say performance task, you'll learn what that problem might be. And then our second world class outcome is we are going to create a product to represent the culture and country accurately, fairly, as well as artistically. So, visually pleasing is what artistically means. And again, here in just a couple minutes, when we're done reviewing our book, we'll talk about what those products might be. Okay, any questions on our two world class outcomes? No? Okay, we said cool. All right, we're ready. So, I did want to start off by reviewing the text, and really, I had you read this book about the Olympics to give you a little bit of background knowledge because the project that we're going to do has a lot to do with the Olympics. So, you guys were Group One. So, I'm going to pull up your book and let's just talk about it a little bit. Um, what were some new things, some new learnings that you
Um,
had? Yeah, go ahead.
I learned what it's like to be the best in the world. So, what do people feel like? And um, I also learned the history of the Olympics and the ancient Olympics.
Oh, good. So Tristan, if I wanted to know, if I personally wanted to know more about the ancient Olympics, what page would I turn to?
You would probably go to page 5.
Perfect. All right. And then you said you learned what it's like to be an Olympic athlete, basically. Oh, good. Adam has arrived. Hi, Adam.
Hi.
Adam, we're just talking about the book you read on the Olympics, and we
Oh,
wanted,
okay.
yeah, and so we're talking about some new things that you might have learned.
Okay, because Ms. Bruns,
Yeah.
I got some notes here I would like to share.
Perfect. Okay.
Information.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I could start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Alright. Well, back in the past Olympics, ancient Greece, these were the main problems. The three main problems.
Okay.
Okay, the first problem was only men can compete. Only men could compete,
Right.
and then women adults, well, they couldn't compete or even watch for that matter.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, the Roman government and religion got involved and ended the Olympics.
Yes, that's right. Government got involved and ended it for several thousand years. Well, not quite 2,000 years, but for several years. And Grace Elizabeth had a question for you. Why did they end the Olympics? Why did the Romans get involved and end it? Let's turn.
Well, because the Romans and the Greeks were two different countries, two different nations. Now, they believed in a different religion,
That's
and the Greeks believed in another different religion.
right. And so the Romans were, and I'm trying to get to the page where that information was. Here we go. sorry, the Romans were more powerful fighters. They had a better army. Let's just put it that way. And so, not only were they trying to conquer the world and take over everything, but they didn't want any other religions to be present in the world. So, yeah, so that meant ending ending the Olympics, ending this Greek way of life because they took over.
And also, Miss Bruns,
Uh
I've
huh.
got more.
Okay, great.
Now, this is the modern Olympics when they were revived. Now, when the Olympics actually started having rules,
Mm-hmm.
they were banning drugs,
Mm-hmm.
which equals steroids.
Right.
Now, I've given a nickname to this.
Okay.
I've given a nickname to the steroids.
Oh,
I call them go-go pills.
okay. Yeah, well, and as we know, that gives competitors an unfair advantage, and so of course they've been banned. Um, a lot of athletes
Because
have tried to find a
what
way.
steroids do is it makes the athlete really buff and gives them a lot of endurance.
Exactly. So they're able to compete, and I'm trying to find the page that talks about steroids here. Um, oh,
Plus,
here it is.
Right
Got it.
here.
Yep. Yeah, it gives them an unfair advantage and they're able to compete at a higher level than they normally would. And so, therefore, earning that gold medal isn't necessarily something they would have earned without the drugs. So,
it's also bad for you
mm-hmm.
as well.
Yes.
Because, I mean, yes, you may win it, but there are two downsides about the steroids.
Mhm.
One is that sooner or later, the Olympics will find out about it. The
Right.
ICO, I believe.
Uh-huh.
I mean, IOC, yeah.
IOC. That's right.
They'll find out about it. And plus, the steroids have really, really bad side effects.
Yes, they do. And so, therefore, a couple things could happen. You can, and this has happened to some athletes, you can lose the medal that you were awarded. And so that's kind of shameful. And then also, steroids have some really bad effects on your body, um,
Yeah.
besides making you buff. So that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Lots of new learnings. Anything else that maybe was surprising for you or something new that you learned? Anybody while you read this book?
And also, Miss Bruns,
Uh-huh.
there were two more things I had to add to this too.
Okay.
Now, this one last one's a problem, but the very last one's not. So, the last problem is, of course, since there's a lot of politics and war going on, you might imagine that there will be some terrorists trying to, what should I say, get rid of the athletes.
Trying to ruin the Olympics. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Get rid of people in total, just everybody.
That's right.
Actually, I wrote a story about that for language arts. I wrote a story about there's a guy called Mr. Cheat, and he's cheating in the Olympics.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. And see what we're doing right now. We're making connections. So you guys might not have even known that you were doing that, but you are. So you're making connections to things that are happening in real life, as well as what has happened in the past. So this is.
And also,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
that there's a couple more things. This is one last thing about the ancient Greeks, the
Okay.
Greek Olympics, is that the old Olympics didn't have any rules.
Right.
Let's just put it that way.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So in the modern day Olympics, we have actual rules and regulations, which makes it more fair for everybody. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one thing I found out that was surprising is that the Olympics were done instead of war. So they were supposed to be like the peaceful way of fighting instead of
Yes.
really using weapons and stuff.
Peaceful way of solving problems. That's right. That when people didn't agree, they would compete in the Olympic Games instead of, drawing swords and that kind of thing. So that's great.
So, what Tristan means by that is that, well, may the best man win.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, like, not like war where, like you said, just draw swords. But like Tristan said, it's a peaceful way of solving problems.
Exactly. Exactly. And so if you lost, well, you lost fair and square.
Yeah, well, congratulations to you.
Right. And
You're the best man.
you didn't get your way, and that was it. So, were there any questions that you guys were wondering about as you were reading the book? Anything that was confusing, or just a question that came up?
Not really.
Okay, and that's okay. Micah, were you going to say something?
Oh, no. I just said no, I didn't have any questions or anything that I didn't understand in the book.
Okay, great. Well, and that's great. But you guys did definitely make some great connections, and you did learn some new things. And really, like I was telling you earlier, the purpose behind having you read this book is to give you a little bit of background knowledge about the Olympics, because this big project that we're going to start is going to deal with the Olympics. So microphones will come back on. Are you guys ready to take a look at what the project is?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. So what we're going to do first is we'll look at the project, and then I think it'll be easier after we look at what it is to go back and talk about enduring understandings, 21st century skills, and world-class outcomes. They will make more sense to you once you have a look at what you're doing. So, okay, this is pretty cool. All right, taking a minute okay, I'm going to have to make this bigger. Give me a second to zoom in on it. Okay. All right. So like I just promised, we'll come back to our world-class outcomes and 21st century skills. We'll talk about those and the enduring understanding, all the kind of harder things in just a couple minutes. Let's talk about the fun stuff. All right, the big picture. So just kind of imagine that you are an adult and, and you will be closer to being an adult, at least in the year 2020. So therefore, imagine the year's 2020 and you are a floral designer. So the big picture, your floral design team has received the illustrious distinction of being selected to create a floral design representing the culture of a nation participating in the next Summer Olympic Games. I shouldn't say next because the next one is actually 2016. But we're talking about 2020. So you guys will be a little bit older. This country.
I would be 16.
Yeah, so you won't be quite an adult, but you'll be.
I'll be 19.
Right, yeah, so you'll be a little closer.
And I think I'll be like about around 11 or 14.
Well, I don't think you'll be 11, but yeah, so the year right now
is college.
So add 6 years basically to your current age. So, anyway.
Oh, add 6 years to
yeah, because 6 years from now will be the year 2020, right?
Oh, actually, I'd be 15.
Well, there you go. Okay.
Actually, I did that, and I would too.
I will be 17 years old.
Well, fantastic. So basically, that part doesn't really necessarily matter how old you will be. You're pretending to be an adult. All right. So this country would like the design to be symbolic, visually pleasing, and cost effective. The nation's Olympic Committee, so these are people who make the choices about what the symbols will look like, will be evaluating your research and the design to ensure that they select the right display to represent your country at the Olympic Games. So remember when I was telling you that you needed to choose a couple countries that you'd be interested in?
Yeah, I've got them right here.
Perfect. That's perfect. And
I have to.
good. And so here's why. I will assign you one of those three choices, and you will be designing the floral design for that country that you chose. Here, let's take a look at an example of one. And I'm just going to tell you, this isn't the actual flowers. This is like a picture of it that they put onto a flag because you can't have flowers everywhere. That would cost way too much money. So sometimes they'll have to have the floral design and then they transfer it onto t-shirts and they transfer it onto flags. And here's just an example of what one might look like. So, and
So
this
it's basically the colors of the country.
not necessarily. We'll look at it a little bit more in a second. Okay, so
That's cool.
here's an example of somebody's
Cool.
bid for Tokyo. Um, so I mean, obviously those are not the real flowers, but they have to reprint everything. So, but the real flower display, imagine how pretty that would be.
Oh.
So anyway,
So florists are flower people who like grow flowers and stuff, right?
yeah, florists are people who make big floral arrangements and displays.
They make really pretty bouquets of flowers.
Yeah, really pretty bouquets, and in this situation, a big display to represent the country you chose. Okay, so let's go on a little bit more. I promised I'd come back to all the hard stuff in a minute, so let's go to the goal. Do I have a volunteer to read the goal for your
I
project?
will.
Okay, go ahead.
You have just been hired by the Olympics Committee to prepare a full design for a specific country participating in the Games. Your goal is to create an arrangement symbolizing the characteristics of that nation for display at the Summer Olympic Games. It is critical that this design is symbolic and representative of the culture of the region. It should be visually pleasing and cost-effective, as this design will have to be
Replicated?
many times over so that it is present throughout the entirety of the Summer Games. You want your bid to be chosen so your design will represent your nation and at the Olympic Games.
Okay, perfect. So yes, you are competing basically with other florists who are trying to win the distinct honor of representing your country. Your design has the opportunity of being represented everywhere on flags, on T-shirts, on all this paraphernalia that you see all over the Olympics and that are sold throughout the world. Yes, Lucas.
So what colors do we use? What exactly do we use for colors and stuff?
Well, that's going to depend on what country you're representing. So let's just go back to the Japan one.
So we have to use flowers.
Yeah, because for whatever reason, the Olympics, they always do like a floral arrangement from each country. It's just the way it is.
So we draw flowers on a piece of paper.
Well, not necessarily. We're going to get there and get more into what you're actually going to have to do. So the flowers that you're looking at right here to represent Tokyo, these are flowers that you would find in Tokyo or in Japan, I should say. They let's just read it. Let's read why somebody would do this for Japan. On Wednesday, Tokyo became the first. Sorry, I'm going to mute you guys because I hear a little background noise. On Wednesday, Tokyo became first of 6 applicants to host the 2020 Olympic Games to release a logo representing the city's bid campaign. The logo portrays an arrangement of cherry blossoms. Okay, so these are cherry blossoms, the most celebrated flower of Japan. The floral motif expresses the feelings of deep gratitude inherent in Japan's sending of cherry blossom trees to all parts of the world, according to the statement bid. The logo has been designed to symbolize friendship and peace and will represent the bid on documents, signage, and marketing materials throughout the campaign. Tokyo's logo for the 2016 Olympic bid portrayed a musabi knot with the 5 Olympic colors designed to signify blessings during a time of celebration. Okay, so I'm not going to read much more than that. But these first 3 paragraphs talk about why this logo represents Japan. So now I'll open your microphones up. Are there questions on why they chose cherry blossoms?
Well, yes, I think I might know.
Okay,
Well, and also I have a question.
sure.
The first one about, well, the cherry blossom is about the main flower of Japan.
Right.
It's basically their national flower.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And also, my question is, like, will we be making a float, or are we just making a flag?
You're going to be making basically a slideshow showing the different flowers that you're going to use, and then your final design. Like this would be an example of a final design. Okay. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
but you're gonna explain it better later on, right?
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, we're only this far into looking at it.
Okay.
All right. Tristan, why don't you read the role? Like, what is your role?
Okay. Role. You are a talented floral designer, but a challenge like this has never come your way.
Oops, sorry.
And-
Sorry, I didn't mean to mute you there, Tristan. Go ahead.
Okay. Where was I? You will need to research the culture of the nation your design will represent. To propose a design that is symbolic and would accurately represent the nation. Can you zoom into it?
Yeah, sure. I was just sending Patrick a message. Yeah, let me go ahead and make this just a little bigger. It's going to get kind of huge, actually, but there we go.
Okay. Research the country's indigenous. What does that mean?
Indigenous flowers. That means flowers that grow there naturally. So there are certain flowers that grow in certain countries just because of the climate, and that's just a natural thing. So indigenous means native flowers.
Oh, okay. As they would be most appropriate for the design. You will also need to estimate the costs associated with the required materials to complete this design.
Okay. So the audience, this is who you are making this for. So basically, you can pretend that I am the Olympic Committee. Okay? Because I'm going to be the one basically judging this. So the audience is the Olympics Committee from a nation that you will research. You will design a symbolic floral arrangement for the Summer Olympic Games. The committee will be very interested in the research you conducted on the country and how this research informed your design decisions. Who else can you share this with? Oh, sorry, these were some of my essential questions. Let's just move on. Okay, stakes. The stakes are why it's important, okay? So I'm going to read the stakes because I'm getting a little background noise. I'm going to mute you guys again. You might lose your bid to another floral designer if your bid isn't the best. That means the Olympics will not. I'm going to say showcase your design. So there will be no financial benefit for you. I'm just going to. You could face failing in your floral business and losing future work to other designers if your bid is not the best. So I'm getting some questions about how are you going to make the slideshow. Don't worry necessarily yet because you're not going to be starting this today, guys. There's a lot of steps that we have to do. I'm just kind of giving you the background. But for the most part, you're going to be using Google presentations. Okay. Microphone's back on, so hopefully there's no more background noise. We
I
have,
have a question.
okay, go ahead.
My question is, so will we be competing or something?
Well, you're pretending that you're competing. So what you're doing, Tristan, let's just say that your country that you chose to represent was China. You are pretending that you're competing against a lot of other people in China to win the honor of representing China at the Summer Olympic Games.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously you're not really competing, but that's kind of what you're pretending that you're doing. So, um, I have come up with two different ideas for products, and then as we go on, if you guys come up with your own idea of how maybe you would represent a country, then you can share that with me and I can say, yes, that's a good idea or not. So, the first choice that you have is to do a photo story slash design. And I should say final design. It's more narrative. Narrative means there's more words. You're going to be writing a little bit more. And it's very artistic as well. So here would be the directions if you choose this first choice. Your team should prepare a slideshow containing photographs of the flowers you will use in your arrangement. Include with each flower a brief description including its common and scientific name, the country that it's located, I should say the region of your country, where it is located in your country, and why you have chosen it to be included in your display. So remember, like they did for this Tokyo one, they told us why they chose these specific flowers. There were two different reasons why they chose cherry blossoms. So you have to make sure that you include that. You can't just say, I don't know, I just picked it. I mean, that's not very descriptive. um, there should be a reason why you would choose these certain flowers. Also, you should include cultural information about the peoples who inhabit the areas that you find these either plants or flowers. So, a little bit about the people involved. So, let's just pretend that we're doing Tristan's example again, and maybe he's representing China. Well, China's a really big country, guys. So, maybe his particular flower that he's describing on one of his slides came from an area in southern China. Well, the people in southern China might be very different than the people in western China. So he would need to make sure that he talked a little bit about that flower in southern China as well as the people that live there. Okay.
Okay.
And then the very last slide would be your completed design.
Okay.
Are there questions so far about the first choice?
Nope.
No, I don't think so. The whole thing is just kind of confusing.
Well, I think
Bruns?
as we go on, it's gonna be more clear to you, and I'll have more examples. But today is just kind of giving you an idea of what you're gonna be doing here in the next few weeks. And
So we're not starting it yet.
Bye.
no, we still have a little bit of background that we need to do before we
You
can
want to?
start. And yes, Lucas is talking about, are we going to be on teams? I haven't decided yet because I have to put you in country teams. So if a couple kids all want to do the same country, then you could work as a team. But if there are absolutely no overlap in choices for countries, then you might do your own. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Mhm.
Our second choice that I have for products is a cost analysis report, and you have to do your final design. So you still get to be artistic if you choose this one. The directions would be to create a spreadsheet outlining the total cost to create these floral arrangements and the cost of each type of flower that you include. So your budget should include information related to the materials and labor, so transportation of the different flowers, etc. And you're going to need pictures of the flowers, the cost of the flowers, and then your final slide, just like the other product, will be your final design. Okay, the last slide. All right. What do you guys think? Any questions so far?
Miss Bruns,
No.
Okay, yeah.
when would you who like to know who picked what countries?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Today, at the very end, that's going to be one of the things that you're going to do. You're going to fill out this little interest form. It'll take you like 30 seconds to fill out, probably. And that's one place that you're going to tell me which countries you were interested in. Okay, and it's also going to tell me. It's also going to tell me which product you're interested in. Okay, so that's kind of what it looks like. So.
Hey, Miss Bruns,
Uh-huh.
I think I completed that.
Yeah, I think you did. And if you changed your mind, no, it's okay. If you changed your mind, since you completed it, then you can go back and do it again. So,
Okay. By the way, Miss Bruns, I have a
Uh-huh.
question.
okay.
Does it matter if we do cherry blossoms or a different flower?
Yes,
Or
it
does
does.
it have to be exactly cherry blossoms?
It would only be cherry blossoms, Adam. I'm sure if you chose the country of Japan.
Oh, so it can be, if you pick any country, then it'll be their flower.
It'll be a flower that you would find in their country. That's exactly right. So,
Okay.
yeah, you can't. It would not be cost effective if you went to a country like Japan and you said, "Well, you know what? I want to use all tulips," and they don't grow in Japan. That would cost a lot of money to get tulips over there. So, okay. So
Hey, Miss Bruns.
a little bit of background noise. Maybe you can mute yourself. Got a couple of my 10-15ers here about 10 minutes early. Yes, Adam.
By the way, don't cherry blossom trees grow?
Uh-huh. Yes, and the blossoms on them are the flowers. Okay. All right, everybody take a deep breath. Now we got to get into the hard stuff. So my 10-15ers, you can probably, I don't know, either just come back or mute yourself or whatever. Let's start to think. Let's go up here to start with our world-class outcomes. Find the most cost-effective, creative, and smart solutions to solve a problem. Which one of those products tied more closely to this outcome?
Cost effective.
Yeah. Which
Is that
one
the
was
first
it
one?
called?
I think number one.
You think it was number one? Okay, well, this is number one. Number one has to do a lot more with culture and the people of a country. Number two had a little bit more to do with the cost of flowers and the cost.
But that's what you said, that we were supposed to find the culture one first.
Oh. Well, no, I was asking you which one of.
Oh, I must have heard wrong. Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. Which one of the products ties most closely to this very first world-class outcome?
Number two.
Number two.
Number two.
Mm-hmm. And then products represent the culture and country accurately, fairly, and artistically. Which product does that tie most closely to?
Number one.
Yeah. So you guys are getting it. Here is the enduring understanding. This is what you're going to remember 40 years from now. Put it that way. You're not going to remember, well, you might, who knows, but you're probably not going to remember this project where you completed this design for the Olympics. What you will remember is that authentic scenarios influence creative and critical thinking. So, what is our authentic scenario? What is the scenario that we're dealing with here?
Um, the scenario is that we're florists and we have to find a design for the Olympics.
That's exactly right. So, how about you say you are a creative, and I'm just going to be even more general, creative individual who will represent, if I could type, your country at the Olympics. Okay, that's exactly right. That is the scenario that you have. So this will influence your creative and critical thinking. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, good. Your 21st century skills. Guess what, guys? We've already actually kind of gone over these quite a bit. We got some major background noise from somebody. I don't know who that is.
I think that's coming from Emma, I think.
Okay. Well, she's muted. I don't know. Anyway, um, your 21st century skills. These are things that are going to help you be a successful adult. You don't need to remember what the national flower of Japan is. What you need to remember is how, or what you need to know is how to be creative. Okay. This is just one example of getting you to be creative. You don't need to remember what the cost of a cherry blossom costs. What you're going to need to remember as an adult is how to be cost effective and creative and have smart solutions. As an adult, you don't really need to remember what kind of, you know, people live in southern China and, what their lifestyle is like. What you need to know is that you represent cultures accurately, fairly, and artistically. Okay. Give me, we got a ha ha in the chat. Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense to you. Good, good. So, as a 21st century adult, you need to be creative. You need to have financial literacy and you need to have global awareness. This project is just one example of making you showcase those skills. Okay, good. And we've already actually talked about our world class outcomes. I just basically took them from up here and pasted them again. I guess I didn't really need to do that. But all right, essential questions. I have one typed here. So, any other questions that we have? Essential questions, things that we're going to guide our thinking. Let's read my first one. What steps are involved in problem solving when creating inventions and innovations?
I think I know.
Well, I'm actually not asking for an answer right now. I'm just asking for questions that will drive your thinking.
Oh.
So, what about how does a person find the most cost effective solutions while still being very artistic? Because, and this is a good question because sometimes the cheaper something is, the less pretty it might be, so you have to be able to balance um, cost effectiveness with still being very artistic and visually pleasing. And you know what, guys, we can work more on our essential questions. I don't want to overwhelm you today because this is just basically step one. Um, so I'm glad that we got to have this time together to look at our product that we're going to be working on and to talk about our 21st century skills and world class outcomes. Um, all you need to do by February 6th, that's a week from today, is fill out that really easy survey. It'll tell me which countries you're interested in and which product you're interested in doing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Pretty easy.
Will you email it to us?
Yeah, I can email it to you. It's also
Will you-
linked on this agenda. So after my 10:15 virtual classroom, I will definitely send out a little update on what you have done.
Okay.
All right, my 9:30 group. If you want to have a little dance party with Grace Elizabeth before you leave, you're welcome to do so for the next minute. And yay, Patrick got new glasses so he can see further. That's awesome. Yay. You guys are actually my quiet group, so just remember to at least respond into the chat or turn on your microphones and respond verbally. That's kind of fun too. Today, what we're going to do, I'm going to come back to our world-class outcomes, but just know that on Thursdays, we're focusing a little bit more on literacy. So these first two world-class outcomes fit in more with what we do on Thursdays. And then on Mondays, these last two fit in with what we do more with math and graphs. Okay, but I'll come back to that in a minute. What I'd like to do now is review the book that you read. I had you read this book on the Olympics because we're going to be doing a really big project here starting in the next few weeks all about the Olympics. And so I wanted to give you some background knowledge on past and modern day Olympics. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the book that you guys read. Pull it up. Okay. All right, here it is. So, and what I did with the last group is I just tried to capture their thoughts, their new learnings, any connections that they made while reading the book. So this would be a really good time for you to go ahead and turn on your microphones if you're comfortable with that, and share any kind of new learnings or connections you made. Woo, my quiet group. Okie dokie. Let's go back and look at what the other group. Oh, it's okay. If you have barking dogs, keep your microphone off and you can just use the chat feature. Some of the new things that the last group learned was that modern day Olympics has rules, whereas the ancient Olympics did not have any type of structure. Also, they learned that the Olympics of the past, I should say, were a peaceful way of solving problems. So instead of drawing swords and having, some kind of battle, they would compete instead. Okay. So that's kind of how they solved problems. So those were a couple new things that the last group learned. Anything that you guys thought was interesting? They competed naked. Okay. Yes. Being naked was, I guess, a little bit different for them in the past. All right. The last group also learned a little bit more about steroids and, roids. Oops. Okay, I gotta spell it right here. There we go. Roids and the negative effects. Okay, and then Clara K just said, and go ahead and share it with everybody if you're comfortable. The Olympics in the past allowed injury, more like broken bones. Well, yes, and they definitely were more dangerous because they didn't have any rules. And Patrick said cheaters use steroids, absolutely. Or Tyler said that. And Patrick said that he thinks we could earn much more money and never have to pay taxes again. You'll have to explain that a little bit more, Patrick. How can we earn money from the Olympics? Okay, so Clara just said there were no drugs in the past Olympics. I should say ancient.
More than likely.
Right, at least not the type that we know of today. Okay, I know
that kind of gives you a cheating boost.
It did. It was a cheating boost. And some of the other negative effects are not only on your body, um, but the embarrassment of having your medal taken away. And that has happened at times. People have had their medals stripped from them. Okay. Anything else that was new? Or remember that knowledge survey that you completed where you said yes or no to the questions? Did your answers change? Just go ahead and type into the chat if your answers changed at all. Okay. All right. Everything was a yes for me in the book. We got another new learning from Patrick, so I'm just going to cut and paste that. Um, Clara said, surprisingly, no, she kind of knew all of that, and that's great. All right. And Charlie, for whatever reason, you were giving a lot of feedback. I'm going to turn your microphone back on now and see if it's gone. Okay, let's see. Okay, it sounds better now. For whatever reason, when you first entered the room, it was a terrible background noise, but it's good now. All right, and then the last group, they made some connections while they read the book. Terrorists who do not agree and try to harm people, they have in the past, and we have a possible threat of that now in Russia going on. Okay, we have, yeah, that's right, suicide bombers. That has happened in the past and a threat. Anything
Like
else?
the planes crashing into the towers.
That's a connection to 9/11. That's right, and those people were terrorists as well. So some people just find it necessary, I guess, to do those kind of things. But did you guys have any questions while you were reading the book? No? Okay. All right, and that's okay.
I didn't get to read like the last 1 or 2 pages because they were like glitched or something, so I couldn't read the last like 2 pages though.
Oh, not a problem. I'm sure you got the main gist of it. And Charlie, who came in just a couple minutes later, I wanted to tell him why I had you read this book. I wanted to give you a little bit more background knowledge on the Olympics because you're going to compete in a or not compete. Here I go with my Olympic language. You're going to complete a big project here in the next couple weeks that has a lot to do with the Olympics. Let's see. I'm going to read the chat for just a second. Oh, wow. So that's a great connection, Patrick. We have a friend, like a family friend, who's going to be competing in the Olympics. That's awesome. And judges would sometimes take sides. That was another message that just came through to me. Yeah, maybe that was a connection to something that's happened in her life. All right. All right, guys, so are you ready to look at your project? And then we're going to come back and discuss all of the hard stuff afterward. Thumbs up? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Tyler is the only one who's going to talk today, I guess. All right. All right, so here we go. And like I said, you're going to I'm just giving you the background knowledge today. We're not going to actually start this for a little while. But the reason I'm showing you this big project first is because all of these hard things like enduring understanding and world-class outcome and 21st century skills, they're going to make a lot more sense after you see what the project is. So like I promised, I'm going to scroll down and get to the actual stuff that you're going to do. Okay. Do I have a volunteer to read what the goal of your project will be? No, we don't have a volunteer. Okay, well then I will go ahead and actually I'm going to back up and read the big picture. All right, here's the big picture. Your floral design team has received the illustrious distinction of being selected to create a floral design representing the culture of a nation participating in the 2020 Summer Olympic Games. This country would like the design to be symbolic, visually pleasing, and cost effective. The nation's Olympic Committee will be evaluating your research and the design to ensure that they select the right display to represent your country at the Summer Olympic Games. And let's look at an example. So we're going to look at it, not the actual flowers, but we're going to look at what they've printed, like on flags and T-shirts for Japan. So here's just an example. Takes a minute to pull up. Sorry. Okay. So what you're looking at here is what Japan has put in for their country's bid. Okay. This is their final floral design. This is what they're going to do, one really big actual flower display. But then this is what they're going to print on a bunch of, T-shirts and flags and that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to read this to you because I think these first 3 paragraphs will give you a little bit of background knowledge on why Japan created this design. And I bet this print is a little too small for you guys to read. Okay. On Wednesday, Tokyo became first of 6 applicants to host the 2020 Olympic Games to release a logo representing the city's bid campaign. The logo portrays an arrangement of cherry blossoms, the most celebrated flower of Japan. The floral motif expresses the feelings of deep gratitude inherent in Japan's sending of cherry blossom trees to all parts of the world, according to a statement by the bid. The logo has been designed to symbolize friendship and peace, and it will represent the bid on documents, signage, and marketing materials throughout the entire campaign. So, this is why Japan chose cherry blossoms, and this is why they chose this circular friendship ring. Okay, there was an actual reason behind why they designed it, not just because it looks cool. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop and just kind of check and see if you guys are with me still. This is kind of what you are going to end up doing for the country that you choose. So happy face into the chat. Okay, good, Jaden. All right, good. You guys are with me so far. All right. So your goal, this is your personal goal. And this is why, by the way, guys, this is why I was having you look at different countries you'd be interested in. Well, it's because you're going to be representing one of them. Okay. You have been hired by the Olympics Committee to prepare a floral design for a specific country participating in the Games. Your goal is to create an arrangement symbolizing the characteristics of that nation for the display at the Summer Olympic Games. It is critical that this design is symbolic and representative of the culture of that region. So just like Japan did, they talked about why they chose cherry blossoms, right? They talked about what it represented to their culture. Okay? It should be visually pleasing and cost effective, as this design will have to be replicated many times over so that it is present throughout the entirety of the Summer Olympic Games. You want your bid to be chosen so that your design will represent your nation. Okay? You're competing. Let's just give an example. Let's pretend that there's 5 people from China all competing to be the one that they choose. Well, only one design can represent China. So whoever wins it, wins it. And then you would get that honor and you would get that fame and that future business. Your role, this is who you are. You are a talented floral designer, but a challenge like this has never come your way, and being chosen would certainly advance your career. So like I said, you would get a lot of fame and possible money from this. You will need to research the culture of the nation your design will represent. You're going to propose that design that is symbolic and accurately represents the nation. Okay, Patrick, so let's just remember to keep our chat on topic and not distract anybody. Okay? Thank you. No problem. Research the country's indigenous flowers. So this was a tough word for my last group. Indigenous means they're native to that country. So for instance, if you're, let's just say you're doing Japan and you decide that you want to use tulips, well, you have to see if tulips actually grow in Japan. If they don't, that would be a bad choice. Why do you guys think it would be a bad choice to choose something that is not native to your country? It wouldn't be relevant. Very good, Clara. It wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't represent your country. And it wouldn't be very cost effective, would it? I mean, it wouldn't represent your country. Good, Corbin. It's not native to your country. You are trying to represent that culture. So that's what indigenous means. Okay. It would be useless. That's right. You're also going to need to estimate the cost of the associated materials. Your audience is the Olympics committee. So that's who you're trying to convince. And I guess I'm the Olympic committee. um, all right. And so all of this is kind of a repeat. Here's the stakes. That means what you might lose. That might be easier. What you might lose. If you lose your bid to another floral designer because you're not the best, the Olympics won't showcase your design. So there's no financial benefit for you. And you could face failing in your floral business and losing that future work to other people. Okay. All right. So let me just check for understanding. You guys still with me? Happy face? Thumbs up? Okay, good. All right. I have come up with two different types of projects that you can choose from. And if you come up with one, something else, and you think that it would be a way to represent your country in a different kind of manner, I'm open to listening to your suggestions. But let's just go through the two that I came up with for you. Okay. You ready for the first one? The first choice? Yes. Okay. And like I said, you're only going to be doing one. So here we go. The first one is going to be called a photo story with your final design. It's going to be more narrative and it's still very artistic. Narrative means there's going to be maybe a little bit more writing involved, a little bit more, that's narrative, a little bit more explanations. Here would be the directions for your first project or first product if you choose this. Your team should prepare a slideshow containing photographs of the flowers you will use in your arrangement. Include with each flower a brief description including its common and scientific name, where it is located in the country, and why you have chosen it to be included in your display. Also, you should include cultural information about the peoples who inhabit the areas where you find these plants and flowers. So this is a lot about the people and the culture where you find those plants and flowers. The last slide will show your completed design. And let me just flash that completed design example again. So this would be like your last slide. Okay. Any questions on that first project that you can choose? Okay. All right, guys. Nope, no. Okay, no questions there. So, Clara, you didn't really miss anything. I'm just going over the two different projects that I'm going to have you choose from. And if you come up with your own, then you can present that to me, and I can approve it. The second choice would be a cost analysis report plus your final design. You still get to be artistic, so don't worry, I'm not taking out all of the fun stuff. This would be creating a spreadsheet outlining the total cost to create one of these arrangements and the cost of each type of flower that you include. Your budget will include information about all the materials and labor needed to do this whole display. You will need pictures of your flowers, the cost analysis of the flowers, and then, just like the last project, the last slide will have your final design. Any questions on what the second project looks like? Okay. And Jade is asking a good question. She wants to know, can I send like an email of this? Well, I'm not assigning this today. I'm just telling you where we're going to be going as the weeks go on here. And I do actually assign it. I can show you some examples. Okay. So for now, you don't need to worry about it. It's just, I will show you examples and I will definitely email this to you, put it in your homeroom announcements. I'll put it all over the place so you'll be able to find what you have to do. Okay. All right. Are you guys ready for the hard stuff? The thinking portion? Okay. All right, get ready to think. It's really not that bad. I'm just pulling your chain. Okay, I think it was useful to look at the project first because when you know what you're going to be doing and where you're going, I think connecting to all of these hard adult type things like enduring understandings, 21st century skills, and world-class outcomes, I think it's easier to just kind of put like a frame around it once you have an idea. So here's your enduring understanding that we chose. This is what I want you to remember 40 years from now. 40 years from now, you're not going to, well, you might, who knows, you might remember doing this project, but you're probably not going to remember researching Mexico and what flowers grow in Mexico and that kind of thing. What you will remember is that authentic scenarios influence creative and critical thinking. So, what is our authentic scenario? Well, you have to be a creative individual who's going to represent your country at the Olympics. And I could actually make that more general. You're going to be a creative individual who can represent your country. That's what you're going to remember. You're going to remember how to think creatively and critically. You're not going to remember what the flower is of China. You might, who knows? Okay, so give me a happy face in the chat if that makes sense so far. Good. Awesome. 21st century skills. These are things that you guys are going to need to do or have in order to be successful adults because you're growing up in the 21st century, by the way. You need to be creative individuals. You're going to need financial literacy. You're going to have awareness, global awareness. So looking back at our project, creativity, what does it mean to be creative? Well, you're innovative, so you have new ideas. 40 years from now, you're not going to remember being creative and creating a final floral design. But you will have the skill of being creative. Does that make sense? You will have the practice of being creative. Okay. 40 years from now, you're not going to remember looking up how much it would cost to make a floral design using all cherry blossoms. But what you will have the skill to do is find cost-effective, creative, and smart solutions to solve problems. Okay? Does that make sense? I'm getting some yeses. So 40 years from now, you're not going to remember how much cherry blossoms, 100,000 cherry blossoms cost, but you are going to know how to find cost-effective, creative, and smart solutions to problems. Okay, I just made this bigger. Hold on. Global awareness, representing cultures accurately, fairly, and artistically. Well, I mean, you're not going to probably remember everything that you learn about the country that you choose and their culture 40 years from now, but what you will know is how to represent different people and cultures fairly and accurately. Does that make sense for you? Good. Do you see how this ties all this project that you're doing? This project that you're doing is going to teach you how to be creative. It's going to give you some background on financial literacy, and it's going to give you some, background on global awareness. But that's not the main point. Um, being a floral designer, the main point is that you have these skills. Okay. And then your world-class outcomes, well, here they are. They fit right in. Here's the question that I have for you. If you choose this first world-class outcome, find the most cost-effective and smart solutions to a problem, which one of the products do you think you'd be working on? Number one or number two? Good, Clara. So which one, and I'll show the products again. If you're finding the most cost-effective and smart solutions to a problem, which one of these projects does that tie into a little bit more closely? Actually, it should be number two. It should be number two. That's right. I'm getting a couple twos in the chat. If you're finding the most cost effective and smart solutions, well, you're doing a cost analysis report, right? You're thinking more about financial literacy. Okay. So if you choose that to be your world class outcome, because remember, you get to choose, you're going to be probably working on the second project. If you choose this world class outcome, products represent the culture and country accurately and fairly. Well, anybody want to guess which one of the projects it ties closely to? Good. Number one. You're going to be representing cultural information. So it ties in with number one. All right. Give me a happy face in the chat if that makes sense for you. Good, my little quiet group. All right. And I think I started to do this with the last group, but I think I don't want to overload your brains today. We're gonna do more driving slash essential questions later. So what you have to do by next Thursday is actually, and I'm going to go over more examples, like I said, later. I don't want to overwhelm you today. So what I need you to do by next Thursday is to fill out an interest form. It's really short and sweet. I'll show it to you.